Time to Shine Today podcast varsity squad. This is Scott Ferguson, and I got my Midwestern folk here. My feel the friendly face of Mike Malatesta, and Mike has a pretty stellar resume, if you want to call it. He's an entrepreneur, helped start, grow, and sell two amazingly successful waste management companies. One sold for mid 8 figures, and the other sold for low 9 figures. He is the fantastic a host of the How Did It Happen podcast. I believe he has like 310 episodes out there, and it's a fun listen. So many knowledge nuggets that are dropped on in there. He has a book out called Ownership. That's the name of his coaching company as well. We're going to dig into the book a little bit later as well. And Mike is just a fantastic individual. In the book, it's kind of like a philosophical memoir, revealing a lot of the secrets that's helped him level up, get unstuck, and get through life. And Mike, thank you so much for coming on. Please introduce yourself to Time to Shine Today podcast varsity squad. But first, what's your favorite color and why?
My favorite color is blue.
Blue.
For 2 reasons. One, the sky is blue. At least it appears to be blue to us. And right. Second, I'm told that it complements my skin tone better than other colors.
It's in your color wheel, my handsome
My color
friend.
wheel, yes.
I love it. I'm looking at this thing. It's a huge saltwater thing called the Atlantic Ocean. It's nice and blue. It's my favorite color too. Nice. I love it, brother. I love it. So let's get into, I want to hear a little bit about these companies that you kind of helped sell. And that's some big numbers that you put together there for the waste management companies. I'd love to start there and then move into, you're building your coaching company.
Sure. So, I started driving a garbage truck, Scott, when I was in college in my junior year.
Wow.
And, why? I don't know. I just loved trucks from the time I was like a little kid. Mm-hmm. And I thought that would be cool to drive a garbage truck. And so I applied at a bunch of places, and I was 19 or 20. So most of them didn't hire me because I wasn't 21, but one took a chance on me. It was called Ace Service Company in Philadelphia, where I grew up. And I started driving, and, it was like a real job, like I was working with people who this was their career. And I thought, after a while, I thought to myself, this is pretty cool. I like the people here. The mission is good. The work is interesting. A lot
hard
of people
work.
It's hard work. It's interesting work. And that got me into the waste business. And then when I graduated from college, I got a job with a big company. In fact, my first job was just outside of Detroit. And I lived in Westland.
Oh yeah, Westland. We might have lived there at the same time. You remember what years this was?
This was 1987.
Okay.
So 87, 88.
I grew up in Plymouth, so you know where Westland.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I started there, and then ultimately I moved around a few times with that company. Brought me to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, eventually, and I was doing great. And then, or I thought I was, and then my boss called me up one day. It was actually St. Patrick's Day, 1992, and asked if he could come up and see me that afternoon. I said, sure. He was in Chicago. He came up and he fired me.
Ooh.
And so I'd been in the Milwaukee area for about 15 months.
Okay.
Freshly married just before I moved here, and just had no idea what to do. And ultimately, through some just really weird connections, I ended up starting a waste business, but not a trash company. It was like a liquid waste or wastewater business, and we basically dealt with factories with my pal Butch Weiss, who's passed away, and that was sort of the beginning. And then we we're very fortunate, grew that company had that for 22 years, grew that company to be a regional company throughout the upper Midwest, and just had, just dynamic, great people around me that, helped us pull off something I couldn't have pulled off myself, Scott. And then we sold that business to a big publicly traded company in 2015. And then a few years later, I started a similar business with a private equity partner this time. And we bought some companies, merged them together, and then, started to improve them, professionalize them. And we just got super lucky. About 3 years into that, there was and still today, there's a real wave of particularly private equity,
Sure.
investing in sustainable companies, recurring revenue, sustainable focus. And we just fit right into that wheelhouse. And we ended up having an opportunity to sell the company after 3 years for a really, really nice financial return.
Nice.
And so that's what kind of got me to close to today. That was about a year ago.
Yeah. Oh, wow. How do we roll into the coaching? I love that you have shift in the name, because a lot of people say pivot now. And I grew up with, I guess we can call it shivit these days, but it's like shift is kind of my jam. Like I kind of grew up, I had to shift quite a bit being in the real estate world, and even in coaching for the last 9 years, with having to shift and understand people's needs. So how we get into coaching?
So I'm so glad you brought that up. First, can I just spend a little time on shift?
Sure.
Because I agree with you. So like the reason I think shift is the right word in most cases is because normally, like I think of a pivot as something that goes around in a circle, or you always have one foot planted when you're pivoting, right? Like in sports or something, you have one foot planted. But oftentimes in business and as entrepreneurs, we need to move a little bit. And what I love, and that's not a pivot, that's a shift. And what I love about shift, and when you look at the book cover, like the shift is italicized, sort of. Sure. almost to sort of give you the impression of movement, but not always volunteer movement. Sometimes you have to shift and you have to be pulled, in a new direction, because your mind doesn't want to move, but you have to move for the business. So that's why I love shift over pivot. And the coaching business, which I call ownership coaching after the book, I call it that because it came from the book, Scott. I wrote this book, put it out in the world, and people started to contact me and ask me if I did coaching. And I hadn't done coaching, and I never thought about doing coaching. Right. Wow. And it was just a really organic, strategic byproduct of having written the book and people seeing, what some of my experiences were, how I shifted over the course of my career to improve myself and to get out of what I call valleys of uncertainty, these sort of deep valleys that we drop ourselves into. And that's where it came from. Nice.
And with coaching, are you more of a one-on-one coach or a group coach?
Yeah. At the time, I'm a one-on-one coach. So I like to cater to entrepreneurs or CEOs. They have to have the autonomy to change, not just the desire, but they have to have the autonomy, the power, I guess, to change. So I like to focus on those. And to me, I start with them. And if it goes into the business where they need help with that, fine. But I like to start with the person, make sure they know where they're going, make sure I understand what their goals are.
Sure.
And then get them on a path to making that future real, whatever future they want.
Beautiful.
And then I'll dig in from there.
Are you a consultant too? Are you a coach? Are you a consultant, or like what? I'm a straight coach. I believe that somebody has their problem or issue or whatnot is inside them, and the solution's there too. Yes. And like a good, coach can bring out like a Tom Brady or a Brett Favre or whatnot, right? Can bring that out with powerful questioning. Which one are you more?
I'm a coach.
Coach, beautiful. Beautiful. Yeah. So what then do you feel, Mike, makes a great coach?
Well, I think there's a few things. One, for me, and what I like to do, having lived in an entrepreneur's shoes for almost all of my working career,
sure.
I feel like I walk the walk and I talk the talk. Mm-hmm. I've experienced a lot of things. A lot of good things and a lot of, maybe not so good things. And I've been able with other assistants, to figure out how to capitalize on the good and how to move forward to improve the not so good.
Sure.
And so that I think separates me from a lot of other coaches, and I don't mean separate me as better or whatever. It just separates me. Like I've and I tell you what, I made 20 some acquisitions in my career, and so I really am dialed into the mindset that entrepreneurs have around not just the work and not just the pressures of the work and all that, but the value creation of the business. And
beautiful.
That's what I try to, provided that's what they want, that's what I would try to unlock. I want to.
Sure. What makes a great coach then?
Well, I think the biggest thing that, besides the experience, I think the biggest thing that makes a great coach is asking great questions and then shutting up and listening. I think I might have heard you say this on one of your episodes, but if not, I think you would agree with it. Oftentimes we know what we want. We just don't know how to talk ourselves into getting what we want. Yeah. And so, I am not the guy that's going to come in and go, do this, do that, do this, do that.
That's a consultant, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just going to ask the right questions. And, for so long in my career, I thought it was more important to know the answers than it was to ask the questions.
Exactly, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. It's like, even with my clients, we don't do affirmations. We do powerful questions, meaning like we set them up because our brains are wired to problem solve. Right. So, we, instead of doing any kind of affirmations, we have questions, and the more powerful you ask the question, the more your brain's going to work to solve that. And somebody, I believe, you may agree with me or not, but I believe that when somebody comes up with their own solution, they're more apt to just go after it, man. If I give them what I feel is a solution and they mess up, they're like, Fergie, you suck. You told me this. But if they're telling it themselves, absolutely. So, Mike, when maybe you're in a discovery session with someone that you're making sure you're the right horse for the course, for their coaching, is there any of the secret sauce that maybe you could share with the squad of listeners out there that maybe you help them find their initial blind spot that you're going to go after?
Well, if it's secret sauce or not, because to me, it's just about, like, first off, that first conversation, I want to understand where they are and where they're feeling on, like, the relative happy stage about where they are. And I also want to get to, is who I'm seeing right now and who everybody else is seeing, is that really you? Or is that someone that you think you need to be in order to be perceived the way you think you need to be perceived? And then after that, I want to take them to a point into the future, Scott, where, and I want to, ask them if we were there right now, what would it look like? So whether that's 3 years from now, 5 years from now, whatever, what would it look like? What do you want it to look like? And how is that different from right now? And then we start building.
Yeah. They reverse engineer it in a sense, just bring them back and get them going. So during maybe the discovery period with a potential coaching client, is there any good question that you wish they would ask you but never do?
Yeah, I think I've never been asked that question before, so it's taken me a little while to.
No, you're fine. That's why it's time to shine today. So most people look at my resume or whatever, and as I come into a coaching engagement with them, and they're like, in their mind, they're kind of like, if this guy can teach me or help me achieve what he achieved, that would be a success. But they never really dig into the process or the why that I went through. Exactly.
Why did I go through it?
Yeah.
So I'd say that's probably, one thing that's maybe would be a good question to explore.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I love when I'm asked my lineage of coaching a little bit, just because I'm a sports nut, and like you have like your coaches and their coaching trees and whatnot, lineage. And then also, where do you see me? And do you have a blueprint to go? Because I'm not cookie cutter, man, like yourself as well. Like, I take them down their path, and we unpack a ton of stuff. And it's funny, you and I are like brothers from different mothers, with regards to, beginning with the end in mind, in a sense, throw a little Stephen Covey out there, where we're, seeing where they're going and then just plan and plot and game plan for the route there.
And you said something that I think is so important to reinforce.
Mm-hmm.
You said earlier, like it works better if it's their idea. And I think that's huge. Universal, not just in coaching, but in life, with employees or anybody, right?
Yeah.
If it's my goal, it's not important to them.
Right. Or even if it's my goal for you.
That's what I mean. Yeah. Right. It's not, it's not as important.
Yeah.
And if it's your idea or you're led to, be able to take credit for the idea, that is the most wonderful thing, because you'll work hard for your own ideas.
That's it, man. That's one thing I was taught years ago, I had coaches since 1998. When I got out of the military, as I hired a coach, and she was super cheap or whatnot. Now she's a rock star. You see her on the cover of books and everything now, but she really set the tone where everything was my idea. Everything was my invention. It was just, she helped facilitate it, with the questions that she asked. I love that. I love it. So what are your strengths then? I think I know you're going to answer this, but what are your strengths as a coach?
Well, I like to think that my strengths are being able to ask the right questions, being able to listen to the answers carefully, being able to hear inside of those answers what might not really be the answer, coming back with a question to clarify that or perhaps challenge it.
That's awesome, dude. Right there. Yeah.
I think that's one of my main strengths. And I guess the other is just that I've lived it for so long, and I've been on, both sides of the table, not just an entrepreneur in my own business, but as an investor in other businesses, as an acquirer of other businesses. I just feel like that, I just have a window into this, I won't say the soul, but the kind of like the soul of entrepreneurs. And I went through my own discovery. Like I went through my own, and you can read about it in the book, where I was deep into being an entrepreneur, but I was not getting what I wanted out of it. I wasn't getting what I wanted out of it. And that's like what you're there for, to get what you want out of it. But so often after we get started, we forget what we want. It just takes over, and then it just becomes what it is instead of what we want.
True. What
you find that?
What weaknesses do you feel that you have as a coach up to this time of your experience?
I think the amount of time that I've actually been coaching is
fair enough. That's authentic, transparent, man. Thank you.
Yeah. Some people might see that as a weakness, but I feel like you ever hear that that story about Picasso, drawing the picture for a woman at a cafe?
It took me years.
He charged her $1 million. The story goes, for taking 10 minutes to draw the picture, and she goes, "That it only took you 10 minutes." He goes, "No, it took me 40 years."
Yeah.
And I sort of subscribe to that.
Yeah. But you've lived the life. You've built successful businesses, which helps. Like myself, I mean, I still own over 100 properties, real estate investments, and I built that up. So that's why I'm not a consultant. Like I'm blessed to coach a couple of Major League Baseball players, a billionaire, very high net worth individuals, and they'll come to me with questions. I'm like, you know what? I've never been in a slump in my life going up to the plate. You know what I'm saying? Gentlemen, I'm like, you've forgot more about business than I'll probably ever know, even though I have a little taste of it with regards to real estate investing, but I just know that the steps that are there to help them get to places. That's awesome. So Mike, have you seen the movie Back to the Future?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Let's get in that DeLorean with Marty McFly. Let's go back to the Double Deuce, the 22-year-old Mike. What knowledge nuggets might you drop on him? Not so much to change stuff, but maybe to shorten a learning curve, blast through and level up, maybe just a little bit quicker.
Yeah, I mentioned it earlier. Like when I was that age, there were two things that were very important to me. One, I had to know the answer, and two, if I didn't know the answer, I wasn't one of those persons who would BS their way through it, but I would be totally embarrassed by the fact that I didn't know something, Scott. And that, I thought that was a strength at the time, but now, of course, I understand what a weakness that was. Like, nobody expected that of me, and except me. And I think I would have made progress faster, and I would have been better if I had learned and understood that a lot earlier.
It's okay to get your asking gear. Ask, man. Ask. If you don't know, freaking ask, man.
Correct. Absolutely.
I love it. So, Mike, how do you want your dash remembered then? That little line in between your incarnation date and your expiration date, your life date and death date. Hopefully it's way down the road. How do you want Mike's dash remembered?
How do I want my dash remembered? Well, like, to me, it's just about, like, for one thing, I don't subscribe to legacy. I think people often spend a lot of time thinking about legacy at the detriment of actually doing something meaningful all the time. But I think, for me, I'm about, really, I'm just about being kind to people and helping them.
I love it, man. That's enough said, man. So what do you think people misunderstand the most about you?
I'm a quiet person, Scott, and I think that sometimes, and I'm thoughtful, like, and I don't mean that in like a philosophical way. I'm not. No. But it takes me some time to process things sometimes.
Sure.
Because I'm considering them, and sometimes people mistake that for me being like
aloof,
or angry. Okay. And it's just simply not the case. But I have to really be aware of that, because most people expect an immediate reaction to something. And sometimes it takes me a little bit of time to process that before I have a reaction. I think it's helpful to me overall, because like, I see a lot of people make mistakes by responding too quickly to things, or they'll say something that they regret or whatever, and that I call that reacting. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Because I'm number one at that, man. In my younger years, I was that douchebag. So absolutely, bro.
Yeah. So I try not to be a douchebag.
It's funny. Like my mentor, my coach would be like, listen, man, one thing I admire about you, just in our 25 minutes of discussion so far, or 20 minutes of discussion, is that you have awesome pauses. That to me makes a great coach, because you are internalizing it on the fly, but you're very I'm not going to say perfect, but you are thinking it out and responding instead of reacting. Because I've tried to get you a couple times this interview to react, because I've listened to you before, and I'm like, this guy is unflappable, which is a strength, bro. That's huge. I admire it a ton, and I know that will make you a solid coach. So, Mike,
well, thank you.
What is your definition of a life well lived?
Well, ultimately, a life well lived is one that you can live with options instead of obligations.
Dude, live with options, not obligations. Dude, that's solid.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That's amazing. Dude, I've never heard anyone say that before. I've heard other people like, the freedom to do what I want, when I want, where I want. But it's live with options, not obligations. Because you and me both know, money it's nice, but it really just gives you options.
That's
of what you do with it. Yeah. Right. Dude, Mike, that's mind blowing, bro. Sorry if I'm kissing up to you a lot, but dude, that's legit, bro. That is solid. So, squad, we're going to take my good friend Mike Malatesta, author, coach, just a kick-ass coach, through our leveling up lightning round just as soon as we get back from thanking our sponsors and affiliates. Time to Shine Today podcast, Varsity Squad. We are back, and Mike, we're going to hook up one time because I speak in Chicago quite a bit, and it's not that far from you.
Okay.
Maybe you can come down and let me buy you some dinner or something, man. And we can, talk over these questions, probably 15, 20 minutes on each one. But in our leveling up lightning round, you got 5 seconds with no explanation. So they can all be answered that way. Okay. So you ready to level up?
I'm ready to level up.
Let's do this. Mike, what's the best leveling up advice you've ever received?
Do it.
Yeah, I love it. Share one of your personal habits that contributes to your success.
I wake up around the same time every day.
Beautiful. So you see me walking down the street, you're like, Fergie, man, he looks like he's in his doldrums a little bit. So other than Owner Shift, what book might you hand me to level me up?
I'm a big Think and Grow Rich person.
Napoleon, I love it. Have you read, I'm breaking my rule here, but have you read 3 Feet from Gold?
I have.
Yeah, it's a fun one too. It's a business parable. I like it. I love it. Beautiful. Mm-hmm. What's your most commonly used emoji when you text?
I'm weak on emoji. I use like the colon and the happy face.
Hell yeah.
I am old school on that. So
love it.
Search for emojis often.
Love it. So I know around about your age here. So do not lie to me on this, okay? Okay. If you can stay one age for the rest of your life, physically, keep the knowledge you've garnered and continue to gain wisdom. What age physically would you stay for the rest of your life?
What age would I stay physically? I'd say I would stay 50.
50. Well, how old are you?
I'm 56.
Oh, wow. Yeah, you look amazing. I'm 50, so we're close. We're close. Nicknames growing up?
Mallow when I was in high school, and then Mal when I was in college.
Love it.
Those are the only 2 I know.
Love it. Chess, checkers, or Monopoly?
Probably checkers because it's fastest.
I know, right? Me too, bro. Go-to ice cream flavor.
I like vanilla.
No, me too, brother. Me too. There's a sandwich called the Mallow.
Yeah.
Build that sandwich for me.
Yeah. Okay. Turkey, roast beef, tomato, cheese, whatever kind of cheese you want, and then I would do that on a toasted like rye cut in half.
My guy. Awesome. I love it. Meat eater. Beautiful. Favorite charity and or organization you like to give your time or money to?
Ooh, there's a bunch of those. The Axe Housing.
Okay. Beautiful. What is that? I'll break a rule again.
Axe Housing is it's a Wisconsin group that helps people get out of renting homes and into buying them.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you for doing that. Last question. You can elaborate a little bit on this one, but what is the best decade of music? 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, or 90s?
80s for sure.
Me too, bro. What did you graduate? 84, 85-ish?
High school 83.
83. Okay. My lady is 57. She just graduated. She graduated in 83. I was 90. Okay. So but the 80s was the big hair, don't care. You had the invasion from U2 and Duran Duran. You had Michael, Prince, Madonna. But you also had AC/DC. Yes.
And you had Guns N' Roses.
ENR, baby. Oh, yeah. You had I loved Warrant. I loved Winger. I loved all of those bands, dude. Like the 80s was it for me. So, Mike, how can we find you, my friend?
It's easy. MikeMalatesta.com. That's MALATESTA.com. Everything that I do, my podcast, my book, my coaching, about me, whatever is right there. And you can just check me out and connect with me if you want. And
beautiful. And Mike, tell us about Owner Shift, the catalyst really to your coaching world, but they got you a lot of people to come to, but tell us about Owner Shift.
Yeah, well, it's really all in the subtitle, which is How Getting Selfish Got Me Unstuck. And that selfish is this sort of horrible word. It's horrible because of the connotations that have been put to it. And it's horrible because some people, get called selfish when they're really something else, like narcissistic or
thank you, Mike.
But that, when I say getting selfish, it's all about what I've been talking about, particularly from an entrepreneur's standpoint or anybody in life. If you don't know what you want, the likelihood that you are going to get there is, a
No.
lot lower. It's
No,
a lot
you ain't
lower.
getting there,
It's a
dude.
lot lower.
Yeah.
But when you do know what you want, then you start to structure your time and your habits and your activities and your relationships and all of those things to help you get it.
Yep.
But so many of us, we start a company, we get 5 years into it, and we're doing all this stuff that we never thought we would have to do and don't like doing. And everybody comes before us, which is what you're taught in like servant leadership and stuff, right? Everybody goes, I think that's all wrong. Unless I know where I want to be, unless I'm selfish about that, I can't help anybody.
Yeah, dude. I mean, even Webster's, the old Webster's dictionary did not put selfish as a bad word.
Yeah.
It's like you said, a connotation of narcissism, jackassism, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
It's what this world has put on. But you're right. I mean, another cliche, is like you put your mask on in an airplane, oxygen mask, before you help other people.
Sure.
Like if you ain't ready to rock, how can you help? Especially as a coach too, brother. If you're not on point and have, I'm not going to say balance, because balance is zero, but harmony in the pillars of your life, and I liken harmony to like a jazz band, where like the drums are my personal life, the guitar is my financial life, the horns are my friendships and whatnot. And if one of them is out of tune, right, you need to do some selfish work on those to bring them into tune so you can play some good music. You know what I'm saying? Right. So I don't believe in balance. Balance is zero to me.
Yeah.
But no,
it's like balance is like, if you want to focus on balance the whole time, it's like focusing on only doing what you love. Well, you'll never know what balance is, and you'll never know what you love.
Right.
Those things just don't knock on the door and come present themselves usually.
Love it. And Squad, I am going to do a good book giveaway on Time to Shine's today's dime. The first person who says level up shift in any of Pinterest. I don't care if it's Pinterest. I don't care if it's Instagram. I don't care. Anyone, the first one puts that, I'm going to get a signed copy out to you, Mike. If you don't mind just signing it and taking care of the postage, or just I'll Venmo you the postage, but I'll purchase the book. And if you can just mail it out to a lucky listener, that would be fantastic. And if you know what, right now, the price on it to me is grossly underpriced on Amazon. You can pick it up for hardcover and Kindle under $7 right now, people. So get out there and get it purchased. I'm going to buy my digital copy. Actually, I'm just going to do it right now. I'm going to hit it.
Audible.
With one click.
That was a fun experience reading the books.
Yeah. So I got that, and do me a favor, Mike, and leave us with one last knowledge nugget we can take with us, internalize, and take action.
Well, this is stolen from or borrowed from Dan Sullivan, who's the founder of a program called Strategic Coach, and it is always make your future bigger than your past.
Always. Yeah. We all regurgitate, know. So, the book that I'm writing right now, I have a business parable that's done. It's in editing right now, which I was helped by some big parable writers, which I'm blessed with that. But the other book that I have is called Regurgitate, and you'll be in the chapter, Mike. So get ready to sign a release on that. So what I do is I take them. And because, if you look at Tony Robbins, right, I've been blessed to open up for him a couple times on stage, blah, 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 but he regurgitates Jim Rohn. Right. Jim Rohn regurgitates Earl Nightingale. Wallace Wallace, all the way back to Seneca, So I love that you said something that someone else said, gave him the credit for where you heard it, but I guarantee he heard it somewhere, in as well. And Squad, we just had a really fun, the king of the pause. And then I say that with all affection and just awesomeness with my good friend Mike here. He got started in waste management. It's hard, interesting, honest work that's out there. People take it for granted, but if those people weren't around, this world would be absolutely trash. No pun intended. But he took that work ethic, surrounded himself with the right people. And he, was able to make some solid money on down the road. He reminds us, I love it that him and I agree that it's about shifting and not pivoting. If Michael Jordan had the ball in his hand, he can't fly pivoting. He's got and he can't double dribble. He can't do anything. But if he's shifting and getting around and dunking the ball, that's where me and Mike see eye to eye on that. And I love that.
Yeah.
You have to have an autonomy to change, not just desire. I talk in Podcast Squad about you might have discipline, but if you don't have devotion, you ain't gonna make it. So you can have all the discipline in the world. You got to be devoted to what you want to level up on. And a good coach will find that happy stage, help you find a happy stage while being authentic, listening. My good friend Mike listens with all his senses, not just his ears. I call it neck listening. Even while I was asking questions on here, if you're watching on video, he leaned in with his neck to really get it paused and then did not react to a question. He responded. I just love that about him. He reminds us that, if you're stuck on something, don't try to ego out of it. Or don't try to play dumb. Don't try to fake it till you make it. Get your asking gear. Like my good friend Leah Woodford passed down to me. Get your asking gear. Do stuff scared. Do it scared. But if you don't know, get your asking gear. Legacy's not super paramount to my good friend Mike here. He wants to be remembered more as someone that's kind of slid across home plate, bumped and bruised, but also was very kind and helping. I mean, Mike won't brag about this, but I really think that he's planting trees that he's never going to sit in the shade of. That's the way that Mike is. Not an ego guy. I love this interview, man. So Mike, you level up your health, you level up your wealth. You've earned your varsity squad letter here at Time to Shine today. You're humble, yet you're hungry. I can't wait to collaborate with you in the future, man. Absolutely love your guts.
Scott, thank you so much for having me on here and for asking me some great questions and for listening as well. It was really, really fun. And I love what you're doing.
Awesome, man. We'll chat soon, my friend.